friends, and welcome back to the 2D Talks podcast, the podcast where music and conversation come together. I'm your host, Aveline Shinky, and the two co-hosts joining me today are Avery Trimble and Kayla Shook. We're also joined by our special guest, Dr. Letitia Jap. We're excited for today's conversation with Dr. Jap, a talented violinist, educator, and university professor. She's here to share her personal journey with the violin, talk about her experiences balancing performance and teaching, and offer practical advice for music students navigating their own paths, whether that's performing, teaching, or both. We'll also explore how classical music education continues to evolve and how students can take advantage of the opportunities available to them. Dr. Jap, it is so great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so I kind of just want to first start off with, could you just tell us a little bit about your background? When did you start learning violin? What made you want to start playing the violin? Like what schools, what degrees, just kind of all the things.
Yeah, sure. So I started violin when I was 5.5 years old. My parents actually wanted me to start a little bit earlier, but the teacher they wanted me to study with in particular, she was a Russian teacher. She would not accept anybody under 6, actually. So I started when I was 5.5, and it was inspired by my cousins who were giving a concert one night. And I had 2 cousins that played the violin and viola. And I just watched them, and I thought it was really cool. So that night when we had a family gathering, I just picked up a pair of chopsticks and I just imitated the violin. And my parents were like, okay, she wants to learn violin. So my mom was the one that was hoping that I would want to play the violin because she thought it was going to be a good way for me to express myself. And so we started with a Suzuki teacher, and she was really great, but she had the intention that I would move and switch to my Russian teacher when I was 6. So I did Suzuki for around a year, and then when I turned a little bit later than 6, then that's when I switched to Mrs. Soder. She used to be a violinist with the Seattle Symphony Orchestra, and she took me in, and I joined her studio, and I studied with her until I was around 10 or 11. And then I actually quit the violin. Maybe you guys don't know this, but I quit the violin for around a year because it was very intense. She had me do competitions, like maybe 4 to 5 competitions a year, ever since I was 6. When I was around 7 or 8, and I would get pulled out of school and things like that. And she was really, really strict. Not even with just me, but my mom too. So my mom felt the pressure of just practicing with me. It was because of her that, obviously I was able to get to the level that I was at and do well in competitions. So, and then after that, I switched to a couple other teachers afterwards that were probably a better fit. But I just remember being really scared for all my lessons, which is kind of why I think I teach the way I teach and making sure my students enjoy lessons, because that's very important.
Yeah.
So that's what made me start playing the violin, watching my cousins, and then that's how I progressed through my violin journey. And so for the schools I went through to, I went to University of Texas, Austin. So I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, and that's where the musical culture was really thriving. It was unusual that somebody did not take violin lessons. Granted, you also had many Asians there too, so because of that, I think it was like you either did the violin or the piano. It was unusual if you heard somebody do like the trumpet. So anyway, so for my undergrad, I went to University of Texas at Austin because there was a teacher that came to recruit, and we thought it was a good fit. And the scholarships worked out in my favor as well. So I was a Longhorn for 4 years, and after that, I went to New England Conservatory in Boston. I did my master's for 2 years, and then I took a year off, actually, and that was one of the best decisions I made in my life because it took me out of the education world, out of being school and learning how to be a musician without being in school. So learning how to make money and things like that and how to survive. Could I survive? I did survive. And after a year, I applied for DMA, Doctorate of Musical Arts, and I went to Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. I did that for 4 years, and I graduated April 2020. So that is when all the jobs got rescinded. But I was lucky in that I was able to get a job with Nazareth College and teach world music there, actually. And after that, I applied for this position at Grand Valley State University, and it just worked out from there.
Yeah.
And I met all of you.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you always know what you wanted to do going into college? Like, did you just knew that music was just the path that you were going to go down? And with music, did you always know that you wanted to go the performance route, or did you ever debate going towards music ed?
So when I was in high school, I was vacillating between being a musician and actually doing something with industrial design, something with industrial/graphic design, because that was something I really loved. I grew up actually drawing and designing a lot. And so, but it really felt like music was the right path because I knew it was something that I had worked a lot towards, and I had good connections and I loved it. And it was almost something that I just knew inside out. And because of the scholarships, it worked out that way in my favor to go through the musical path. So it was always performance, actually. I did not know music education was a thing, actually, because most of my studio mates in high school all did performance. So I entered in, so all my degrees were in violin performance, and I entered in, as a performance degree, not thinking about anything else. And so it wasn't until my DMA when I realized, because at Eastman, music education is a huge thing. They have a very good program. And so I was advised that when, it was more of practicality, so I have a minor in music ed. Mm-hmm. And it was not something I considered until my second year of DMA, because my classmates who were going through the application process for being professor jobs were telling me that it would be handy to have something else as a minor, because before mine was just performance. So they said, just choose something, theory, music history, music education, and that will help with your resume, with your CV. So I choose music education because when I was an undergrad, that was my first exposure to teaching. And maybe you guys have gathered this for me, something that I love is I just love people and I love music, and I feel like teaching is an intersection of both. Mm-hmm. And when I started teaching my junior year of college, that's when I realized, wow, I really love it because it allows me to connect with people, and I love helping people. So that's when I think my exposure to teaching started. And then music education was sort of like the minor was added on later on, out of practicality too. But I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot of things. It's a whole different world, as you guys know, right? Performance, and they can be siloed. They've always been kind of siloed in their own way. But I think it's not until recently people realize that you can actually curate curriculum that it lends people to be able to be exposed to both. Yeah.
Especially the minors. Minors are kind of great in all avenues. I mean, Avery and I were business majors originally, right? And I mean, now I've transferred out of the accounting minor and I'm doing music performance as my major, but I've dropped my accounting down to a minor. And it's just something else that you can apply to, you can apply it to music, you know, whether that's the business side of things. Like if you're working with the Grand Rapids Symphony or anything like that, you don't necessarily have to be a musician in the GRS, but you have the musician background and you have the business background, and you can go into that company and just work beside musicians for the symphony. And it's just really cool to see. So that's really cool that you've implemented ed in with your performance degree. I'm curious, you were talking previously in your background how you had all the competitions and you had all the school that you had to complete and things like that. How did you balance practicing and balance all of that? Because that's a lot, especially at that young of an age.
Yeah. My mom actually and I talked about it recently because she kept a journal when I was young, and she was pretty detailed, and we talked about it, and I didn't remember most of it, obviously, because I was 6 or 7. But she said it was really hard because when I was 6 and 7, I was already practicing an hour or 2 a day. But I had to because I was also taking 2 lessons per week.
Wow.
So because of that, and my teacher was so strict and she expected a lot out of me. And I was one of I think I was one of her few students that was consistently doing competitions. But it also helped because my mom practiced with me every day, every single day, every hour. And I think because of that, I was able to have that discipline because most of the days I didn't want to practice, right? You just want to play. But my mom practiced with me. And she practiced with me consistently until I was, I guess until I quit. So like until I was like 10 or 11. When I was 10, I think. I remember I was practicing the Mozart Rondo. Some of you played it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody played it.
I wanted to play it. I didn't play it, though.
I remember that piece. It was that piece. It was because there's so many fast notes. And I remember I couldn't take anymore. My mom was cooking. I broke my bow one time because I just could not get it. And I remember like everything turned into a blur because I was just crying. And so I just ran to my room and my mom was like, I can't do this anymore. And my mom was like, I can't do this anymore. So finally But so practicing, I think every single day I would get home, I remember I would just start practicing. And it would be for 1 to 2 hours, but it would be spread out too. And then I would do homework. In high school, that was when I started practicing by myself, and I got a lot less practice then. That's one of my regrets, actually. Because as you guys remember from high school, it's like a full-time job, right? And there's so much homework. Yeah. And I actually even had to take a break from violin for for a month because I had to study for the SATs. Real? So, but when I was young, it was when I got home, my mom would practice with me. And the times that were really difficult for me to practice, she would bribe me with $0.10 an hour. So I love it. Like $1 an hour. But that's how I would balance it. So it would sometimes I never practiced more than 3 hours, actually, surprisingly. I think I only did 3 hours one time in high school, and that's because my friends were doing it. And that's where I think culture within the studio really pushes the people in it. Because I saw my studio mates were practicing that much, so I wanted to try practicing that much. But it was basically for me, it was violin and homework. That's all. I didn't really have much of a life. I didn't really go out. I didn't really have many friends.
Well, I mean, it's hard. It's a hard balance, especially because violin. I tell all my like roommates and stuff this, but it's like all of the majors that are not music people, like they don't have to worry about it necessarily. Like if you're a music major, you have to be on your game at all times. Like there's not a day that goes by that you can't like let it stray from you, especially if you're in university. Like you're there for it, like that's it. But then you have people of like business majors, health majors, whatever. It's I have an exam coming up, I need to study for it. But our exam is every day, you
cannot cram for it.
You can't cram. It's a long process that you need to do every day. So
it's like Michael Phelps. He said for him, he swam every single day. Because if you miss one day, you actually go back 2 days. Oh, wow. So that's what he said. I remember it stuck with me. Yeah.
Were you competitive with your studio mates? Like, did you feel like really competitive with them?
No, because there were very competitive people out there. So I could not even keep up. And those competitive ones also had very competitive mothers, too. So I was going against a team.
In terms of performance, what would you say is the performance that you're most proud of?
There were a lot of performances I was proud of. I think the one that stuck out to me was, as I was kind of reading through these questions, was when I was an undergrad, my sophomore year, and that's when I won the concerto competition. And I played Lalo Symphony Espagnol, the full work, with the orchestra. And I think the reason why, because I was thinking at first, I was wondering why in that particular one I was most proud of, because there had been other orchestras I had played with when it was the full work. But I think this was the first time I actually really practiced on my own and wanted it so badly. I wanted to win that competition. I could not sleep. I practiced all the time, and it was coming from pure self-motivation rather than my mom like pushing me or anything. She didn't really push me later on. I think she just got a little bit tired of it. But I think this was the time that was the first independent kind of preparation that I did. I knew I wanted it, and then I was able to get it, and I realized if I had worked really hard and dedicated and wanted it enough, I could get it. So that is the one I'm most proud of, because also all my friends were there. And my family came in to watch, family and friends, and it was something that I felt like I remember going in I felt nervous, but it was for the first time in my life, excited nervousness.
That's how I feel when I perform too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like excitement. Yeah.
So it's a good feeling because as opposed to, oh my gosh, am I going to mess up, you know? But I remember just going in there being, okay, I prepared that all I could do. So I'm really excited to like show them. That was the very few times I was nervous and excited. So that's the performance I am most proud of, I think.
I feel like I'm always just excited to see, like, I wonder how I'm going to do. Like, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I always feel.
A curious mind. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So, how nervous on a scale of 1 to 10 would you say you are when you perform? And how would you say it compares to, like, when you were younger and you perform?
When I was younger, my mom told me that I wasn't nervous. And it's because she would always tell me, she would always get super nervous. So when I watch you guys perform, I get super nervous. So I know what my mom feels now, you know, because it's a little bit out of my control, you know. But when I was younger, until I hit middle school, I wasn't nervous. And I think it was because my mom would tell me literally when I entered into competition, she's like, play for these. In the Asian culture, if you have somebody that's older than you, then you call them uncle or auntie. So she said, play for these uncles and aunties, you know? So it's like playing for family. And so I noticed this with my young kids too. They don't really get nervous. They just stand up and they just play. It's like they think of nothing else but the music. But it's not until you get more self-conscious and everything, then you get more nervous. So I think I got more nervous definitely in middle school when I saw how well my friends were doing. And then you start to compare yourself.
Yeah.
That's when I start to get nervous. But I think I do get nervous, and maybe you guys see it too sometimes, but I think it's not to the extent that some people become when they have meltdowns or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe because it's helped that I've done it enough in my life. And that's why I encourage you guys to keep playing, because that's the only way that you can build confidence.
Yeah.
So I do still get nervous, like my heart pounds, and I don't get weak knees like some people say.
Yeah.
I just get heart pounding, and I guess I flush a little bit, probably because my heart's pounding. But that's basically it. So I think if I were to give you a number, it depends on it and my state of mind and preparation too. But it can really range from 10 being the most nervous, right? Probably 2 to 8, maybe. I don't think I've hit a 9 or a 10. It's been usually okay. Maybe I've hit like 9 a couple times, and that's when I feel, obviously the more performances you get, the less prepared you can be for them. And so sometimes you walk in there like with your chamber group being like, oh my gosh, can we actually pull this off? But so far, I pulled it off, so.
How nervous
so
were you
far.
for GB? Like for GB, how nervous were you for like auditioning here?
Oh, when you're auditioning, interviewing for jobs, that's pretty nerve-wracking because they put everything all in one day. You interview with the head of department, dean, provost, all of them, and then you jump into like rehearsing, and they want to watch how you rehearse. So they're also judging you based on that, how you are personally, and then how effective you are, and then you have your recital, and after that you give them a master class, and after that you have interviews with students sometimes, and then afterwards you have dinner, which is not really a dinner with a committee because they're still like feeling you out.
Yeah.
So I get very, very nervous for those. Yeah. Like I lose a lot of weight before.
Yeah, it sounds stressful.
So I get more nervous for those than actual performances. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So tips before performing. What are some tips you have? Or like what's a routine that you do?
I have not mastered a routine yet. It always changes, but I can tell you that I must have a banana before. And for studio recitals, I try to supply, I think maybe I just did one time, but supply bananas or dark chocolate because I think that helps. Maybe it actually doesn't help. It's like psychological, you know. At least I have my banana. I clear out my day if it's like a big solo recital performance. I listen to the music before I get there. I choose my favorite recording. Some people are different. I've talked to somebody else who actually listens to a piece of music that they're not performing that day, which I thought was interesting. I just need to have it in my mind. And for me, I have to go through every single note before I go on stage. I think some of my colleagues are like that too. So, but for me, I have to go through it but I go through it very carefully because if a piece is very intense, then I just go through it slowly. But at least I go on stage knowing that that's not the first time I'm playing that. So in terms of tips for performing, it goes with find your own routine. And that's the beauty of if you've performed a lot, you can tweak around what your routine is. But for me, it's just clear up my day, eat a banana or two. I used to not be able to eat, but now I have to eat. And I eat earlier in the day. And I go through every note of the piece.
Okay.
Of the pieces.
Wasn't there a violinist that only does scales before performing? You talked about it before. You said there was like this violinist who performs and he only does scales before going on.
I don't remember who that would be, but I'm sure there are people out there. I know somebody like Heifetz.
Yeah, I think it was Heifetz.
Heifetz, I'm sure he's so big on scales, but I remember his routine was he would play through certain passages really slowly. Not even fast, just really slowly. So that was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like Heifetz, but I'll consider that.
Dang.
Very shaky vibrato.
What's wrong with him? Oh my God.
I don't like his vibrato. His vibrato's not good to me, but...
Bashing Heifetz on the podcast. We've come to a new level.
You should have an episode just on that.
No, I could write an essay on it. I could.
Not the essay.
Brought him up just to bash him.
Yeah.
So how is the application process for university jobs? And what advice would you give to performance majors that are taking their NEPSTECs?
So the first question, what was the application process like? So you go on, there are certain platforms that post college applications, job applications. So there's Higher Ed, there is College Music Society, I think that's one. Indeed, which you guys are probably familiar with, they always post there too. But a lot of them I've noticed, they place it on their school website, but they don't always post it on somewhere like one of those major platforms, which I think is kind of interesting. So it really is word of mouth. So when I was first looking for a job, I was really loud about it. I told all my friends, and that's actually how I heard about the GV job, actually. It wasn't me seeing it. It was my current roommate, actually, who you guys have met, I think. She was looking for a job for herself, and then she came across the violin, and she knew I was looking because I was really loud about it. And then she sent it my way and said, I think you would be interested. So how it works is that you apply, you have your standard, you have your CV, you give usually 3 live performances, recordings, and then you give recommendation letters, and you have to write all these other things. And then you submit it, you wait a couple of weeks, and then they usually have 1 or 2 rounds. So first it's going to be a Zoom interview, and it will be a Zoom interview, and they'll ask you questions to get to know you a little bit, and then the final 2 or 3 people who get picked will be asked to be on the on-campus interview. And that's when you did the whole shebang that I mentioned earlier, where everyone was like stressed out. Yeah. And so after that, then after a couple of weeks, they will, and not even a couple of weeks, they probably know after the last applicant has gone who they want. So that was kind of like the application process. Yeah. The advice I would give to performance majors taking their next steps after graduating. Okay, so first, go to grad school. There are many reasons why. One of them is because it is really important to expand your network. You can be a good player, but it's hard to go anywhere if you do not have a network. And I've realized that as my years have progressed, that I've noticed that a lot of good players deserve a lot of opportunities, but they just don't get there because they don't know enough people or they're difficult to work with. So have a great personality, be nice, genuinely. Going to grad school expands your networks. It exposes you to different environments. You will have people with different playing level abilities, and I think that's important to get exposed to them. And also, you're making connections with your teachers too, right? So that was first. Go to grad school, expand your network. I said play in different festivals. You're networking with not just your studio mates or your peers, but also your teachers, because we all have our resources because of our teachers, Yeah. So that is something that I would highly advise, just network. And then play lots of chamber music too, because that's your way of building friendships too, right? So, and then I wrote again in all caps, network. And I said the last one was learn to be nice. So for some people, it's not natural to be nice, but I think that is the way you will get and be successful in the world. And I say this because I have watched a lot of interviews. Something I like to do in my spare time is I like to watch interviews with CEOs, actually. And I've learned a lot from them. And I remember during my time at UT Austin, we had a guest violinist, and his name was David Kim. He's the concertmaster of Philadelphia Orchestra. And he worked with us. He was really great. On the last day, he actually gave us a really handy piece of advice. And he said, just be nice. And the reason why is because you just need to be a good player and be nice, and you will be successful. That's all. And he was like a really nice guy. And that was something that stuck with me. So to answer your question, Kayla, what advice? Yeah, go to grad school, expand your network, and play lots of chamber music, and just learn to
Be likable.
Yeah. You guys are all likable in this table, so I think
That's
that
good.
will be
I'm glad you brought up networking. How would you recommend networking the best and with other musicians in meaningful ways?
I would say festivals. Go to festivals, music camps, things like that. Social networking, you guys are pretty good about it. From what I have seen, reach out to people, comment on their Instagram pages, and they will get to know who you are, and they will know that you're supporting them. And so if you support them, then they will support you too. Contact churches, schools, organizations when you are ready to play for them. I think it's really important, because I have also seen people who just contact randomly and they get all these gigs, and which is really great, but they show up and they're half ready. And they just do it just for the sake of networking, but you have to be ready, because that's how you present yourself.
So like call a church and be like, oh, I want to come play for you and such and yada, yada, yada. And
yeah, so something I did when I was a student was I would see if the churches would have musical series. So I would go on their website, and usually, especially here in West Michigan, so many churches have them. So you can see, and then just see who is playing there. So, and then what you can do is you can contact somebody who's played there, and then make connection with them, and then ask them how they contacted the church. Because sometimes when you contact a church, for example, or an organization, it might get lost in the emails. But I think it's better if you contact somebody who's played with them before.
Okay.
So something I did was I would analyze who had been playing with those organizations and contact them. Or you can just, sometimes it doesn't hurt to contact the churches directly. Go to schools. That's how you can put yourself out there, because music conductors usually are very well resourced and they have good networking. So contact schools, that's easy. You can just, contact the teachers and be like, hey, I'm a student at GVE. Can I play for your students? Actually, you can play for them, but also offer some sort of service too. So can I work with your violin section? That's something that they will like.
okay.
Organizations, you can say, hey, you can see if they have any events and say, hey, would you like a musician? And I can offer you some sort of music, and have your repertoire ready too. Which brings me to another point, I guess, is always before you reach out to them, make sure you have some sort of presence online. I'm pretty sure I've Googled every single one of you guys. But I think it's or like Instagram, you guys are just making sure, even though I might not like follow you back because it's for boundary reasons. But I'm just out of curiosity, not because I'm actually like nosy or anything, but I just want to see how you guys are doing, for those who are wanting to be music seriously. Because I actually learn a lot from you guys too, So, but I think that's how I would put myself out there, just social networking, festivals, and contacting, being very proactive too when you are ready.
Along with what you said about putting all the way to put yourself out there, was a lot of that through just like outside events, or more talking to other members of your studio or the orchestra or conductors?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Maybe it's all of it. Just do as much as you can. Just spread out as much as you can. But I think it's talking to as many people as you can and then getting resources for them. People are willing to help. I think they are willing to help. Especially, actually, I think if you are a student, too. I think that's the perks of being a student. You guys are very... If there's something I've learned over the years, I think it's been 6 years since I graduated from school officially, and I've more and more realized how protected you are as a student. And some people will look favorably upon you if you are a student. So that's how, just talk to all of them. Yeah. And just reach out.
Yeah. As a professor that has lots of degrees in performance and ed and all the things, what are some certifications or programs that you would recommend for either high school students coming to college, people doing their masters, their doctorates, anything like that? What are some programs or certifications you would recommend that students get into now before they go into the professional world? Like, I know me and Avery just started the Suzuki Association of the Americas, and we've been going through that together over the course of this summer. So,
Good.
Yeah, so that's been fun. But we've been doing that, and that's been really helpful, just teaching us how to teach other, like the students and things like that. And then ASTA, American String Teachers Association, that's been really helpful for networking, especially with a lot of the music ed people based around Allendale and Grand Rapids or neighboring cities and things like that. It's just been kind of expanding our community, especially with the Michigan Music Conference that comes to Grand Rapids every year. ASTA is a big part of that. So we're all involved with all of that, but what are some, if there's anything additional, what are some other organizations or certificates or anything like that that you would recommend?
For degrees in performance in particular, that's what you're asking. I would say those two are the big ones. Okay. Those are the ones that I've always suggested to people. At NEC, New England Conservatory, it really depends on the school, what certifications they can have. But at NEC, they had something like the community engagement. They had something like that. You could be a fellow from there, and you can have a certificate or something like that. I think that's always good. See what your school what your school offers, I think, in terms of any degrees or any certification or programs. I would highly go for that. But I think Suzuki is something that I've noticed in particular. And ASTA sounds like I was never part of ASTA because I guess I was always more performance when I was there. But looking back, it would have been a great opportunity because you do meet, as you said, you have met a lot of people, right? Yeah, and then you have these conferences, and you meet even more people. So, and Suzuki, you meet a lot of teachers, and these teachers all have something so much to offer in terms of resources. And you're creating your network nationally too. So that's actually what I actually just wrote down Suzuki, ASTA, those are the two main things I would just say. Yeah.
And then you also had started the community engagement project here at Grand Valley with Dr. Cho, right? Yeah. Dr. Cho's the piano professor here at Grand Valley State. Could you talk a little bit about how you guys started that process, what the process kind of looked like, just all the things related to that?
Yeah. So that program was something we both had really wanted to start at GV, but we just didn't know that the other person wanted to do it. So I was thinking of doing something. I wanted to do something like that the first year I got here. But as a newbie, I wanted to concentrate on building the studio first and my own stuff. And it wasn't until my third year here that Dr. Cho approached me with it and said, I want to apply for a grant and I want to start the community engagement music project. And I was all for it. And the reason why we believed in it so strongly was because we actually had gone through the community engagement project or something like that every degree that we got, actually. And we learned what it was like. It gives you a certain skill set, right? You learn how to work and you learn how to perform for different venues, and it exposes you to different audience. And at the end, it's most of the people that you end up playing for anyway. So, as opposed to people in the concert halls. So that we applied for the grant and we got it, and then we had to create a structure. The first year was actually pretty not messy on the back end.
I enjoyed it.
I thought it was great.
Oh, you guys! Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I hope at the end, like the students, you guys felt like it was pretty clear, the process and everything. But for us, it was just putting venues together, I think something that we could have done better was created like an infrastructure or some sort of system that would allow us to link students and venues more efficiently, because we were playing a lot of mix and matches. And it was harder because actually at NEC, UT Austin, and Eastman, we all had chamber music was a huge thing. So people came in as pre-formed groups. But for us, we were trying to put people together.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest part. So that was the most difficult part. But I think this year we tried to make it a lot more simpler. We had less groups and we had more pre-formed groups, I suppose. And I think I kind of realized from year one that you can just send like 2 people in, or like duets, like Avery and Aveline did something, and Kayla, you did something with Kenny and Maggie, right?
Yes.
And you guys can go in with solo pieces and then also play together too. And I had rep for you guys like ready to go. So that putting it together, the first one, I think it could have been a lot more simple, but I think we just happened to make it a little bit more difficult because we wanted to get as many people involved. So, but it was a lot of fun. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's what the process was like. And I think every school should have a community engagement.
And sorry, real quick. You had brought in other professionals too to work with us.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. Did you just connect with them through because you had gone to school with them and all that type of stuff? Is that how you kind of made that connection, brought them in?
Yes. Okay. So Will Feinhauer, he was one of my professors at UT Austin, and he was part of a Neuro String Quartet, which is the string quartet in residence there. And I worked really, really closely with him. He was such a great coach, and he also wasn't just like a good musical coach, but he was actually one of my mentors, so lifelong mentors. And Tanya Maggie, she's from NEC. She's the dean of community engagement partnerships there at NEC, and I was her first independent study student, actually. She had never had anybody approach her, but I was like, I really enjoyed taking one of her classes. She had so much to offer. So I said, hey, I don't know exactly what I want to study with you, but I just want to, what do you want to teach? Could you teach me something? And we just formed out this like curriculum, and after that, we just kept in touch, I think. And so I think that's why I highly encourage students to keep in touch with their professors, because at the end of the day, they really do want to help, and they are resourceful. And because they haven't been given by their previous professors too. So Will and Tanya, I just asked them. I hadn't talked to Will actually for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And so I reached out and I was like, I knew he would remember me, So I was like, hey, Will, this is what I'm doing. And he was just all for it, because it's like I'm the fruit of his labor too. So, so he said, oh, I would love to help. And was nice enough to give me like a huge discount too, and Tanya too. Yeah. And because they saw that they wanted me to just keep going with, what they had worked on with me. So, yeah.
You can go now, Avery.
What was your question?
What was it? It was about the thing you were just talking about. The community engagement project. Do you do that after you graduate? How do you get into that after you graduate? Is that just a school thing?
It's just a school thing.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Schools will often offer that type of program. So, and then afterwards, you kind of have to form your own.
Okay.
Avery, we can form our own community engagement project.
I'm very
after
charitable.
we're done.
Nice.
Post GV life. Yeah.
We'll have a post studio.
I like playing. I like playing for old people. They're very grateful. I like
They're
playing for
very
them. Yeah.
grateful.
Hey, it's a great audience. You know?
They love
Good
young
experience.
people. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys brought up Kemp. That was my first time doing anything like that, and it was really fun because I've never gotten to play in a violin trio, and that was just a really nice experience.
Yeah, and you had a good venue too, because Jenny Ryan was a GV alumni, actually.
I wish I got picked for that.
Well, you can go back next year. Yeah, and I saw the pictures. It was really cute, and I think didn't she have everything set up when you guys got there?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's so great.
And that was really cool because I know they start in kindergarten, so walking in and seeing kids that young playing violin was really cool.
Yeah. So, and I know that you guys quickly changed up your program a little bit? Did you say you guys shortened a lot of the pieces?
Yeah, the kids got really bored with a lot of the classical solo stuff, so
Yeah.
we kind of cut that short and got into like the fiddle tunes and the fast pieces.
Yeah, I saw the pictures were really cute because I think she even had a background for you guys. Or
She
something like
did.
that.
She had like the "Welcome to my classroom" sign. And,
Yeah.
But along with that, I know there's so many things you can do in music, as we've talked about today. What advice would you give someone trying to discover which path is right for them?
I would say, so I remember when I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with music. And this was when I was a senior at UT Austin. And I was talking to a professor at Rice because I really wanted to study with her. And she asked me, she said, she was a little bit black and white about it, but she said there are 3 things you can do: be a soloist, do chamber, or orchestra. That's it. But I think just teaching too. But maybe she forgot. But there are 4 things. And I was like, that's it? She's like, those are the 3 things at that point. And she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. And being at Eastman, I realized there are more than just 3 or 4 things. You can be an entrepreneur. You can create. There are a lot of actually small businesses that formed out of Eastman. And I think at Eastman, they also had something called entrepreneurial musicianship, so they had something big like the KEMP, right, the community engagement. They also had something that was EM, the entrepreneurial musicianship, and they actually influenced NEC, and NEC actually started to build it. And so they teach you how to make your own small business as like a duo or something like that. And they taught me how to think outside the box. So I think at Eastman, I learned so much. And I realized the quickest way to find something that you want to do is just do all of it and see what you enjoy the most. I remember watching, because I've read a lot of business books, they usually tell you to do that too. And CEOs have always or just entrepreneurs have always suggested that to people. So do a lot of chamber, do a lot of orchestra, do a lot of teaching, and then see what skill set you have that naturally lends to that particular field, I suppose.
Not chamber.
Well, you never know. Yeah. So that's how I kind of figure, because so many musicians at some point are going to be like, what am I going to do? Because every sector is very difficult, right? Yeah. For me, how I kind of discovered it was, I think for me, it was always a little bit more clear. I think it was my junior year of college at UT Austin when I just loved teaching. But I was not a good teacher my first year. I remember I was actually really bad. Like I think it was because I didn't, it was my first time, right? When you're teaching, you don't have any tools and everything, but I was lucky in that I was able to watch people teach, and then I started observing lessons. So if you want to be a good teacher, observe teachers teach. When I was at NEC, what I did was, because we had so many amazing teachers there, I asked my friends if I could sit in their lessons. And soon the professors got to know me. That was also kind of a networking thing too. So that's what I would suggest. When you're a student, observe. You will take away things that you admire, some things that you've learned, you kind of realize, maybe I'm not sure if I want to do that. But that's the biggest way to improve on teaching, just observe. So for me, I think that was a little bit more clear-cut. I knew I had to develop the skill set. So I started observing, I started working with more students, and obviously that over the years, I'd like to think I've improved. From no tools to lots of tools. But it was because of how I observed people. A couple of years I worked with a teacher that was not so great for me, and I became my own teacher. And I think even though it sucked for those 2 years, that I wasn't really getting the teaching that I needed, because I learned to teach for myself and explain things to myself, I realized it actually made me become a better teacher. So, but I think, just try as much as you can and follow where you, not necessarily what you might be most passionate about, but what you're best at, I think. And I think you might be noticing, how back in the day people were like, follow your dreams, like what you're most passionate about. Yes, there's some merit to it, but you probably have noticed that more people recently are just saying, do what you're good at, and then, your passion will follow.
What was the best advice you received from a teacher that improved your playing the most?
Yeah, so I wrote down 2 words. One teacher said, just play. And I think it seems so simple. It's like Yoda. Was he the one that said, don't try, just do, or something like that?
Something like that.
Okay. Anyway, but I remember that I was getting caught up with all the technical stuff. And I know I work on a lot of technique with you guys, but there came a point that I was just trying to get everything to just be technically perfect to part that I just had a hard time producing music. And my teacher was just looking at me and he said, Letitia, just what are you doing? And I was like, I'm trying to like play well, just to perform. And he just looked at me and said, just play. And then, just play. And then I was just like, and I don't know, for some reason that just clicked with me. And I just played. And the technique will follow if you've been working on it, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable. So that was actually one of the best advice I had to receive. Just sometimes you just have to get out of your mind. There are times that it's okay to get in your mind and get technical and cerebral about things, but there comes a time at the end of the day you're making music. So just play. Yeah.
Would you say that you could draw a line between when you just play and how much you need to think about technique to do so?
It can go a little bit hand in hand. I think there's a balance with certain passages that you play. So some passages I actually have to think a little bit more technically. Like I think a lot about finger patterns actually, or I think about when there's huge runs, I focus on 2 notes, or I focus on like what my bow has to do. But there are maybe like 4 or 5 places in like a set piece that I have those times. But other times you just have to train yourself to listen from out there, and then that's when you play more musically, I think. Yeah. Ideally, you can get to a point where you're just like playing music the whole time, but you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to think about technique when I practice, but when I perform, I'm like, if I think about technique, it'll just mess me up.
Yep.
So, but usually the stuff that you teach me, it does just kind of naturally start to appear in my like normal pieces.
It starts to hopefully bleed in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It becomes second nature, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that here you're teaching all the time, you're doing performances on the side, all this stuff. When you go in to sit down and practice, what are the main things that you always hit, like technique-wise? I know we do a lot of Shradiak and all that type of stuff. Can you just kind of run through, like, what are some main technique things that you always try to do just to keep that form there?
That's a good question. Actually, a lot of the things that I do, I try to implement it for you guys, but I also understand that everybody functions very differently. So when I was working with you guys, I tried to give you guys a lot of things in bulk so that you can learn to kind of choose what works best for you. For me personally, I love my Shradiak. It just gets my hand in shape. Yeah. And I do a little bit of Kreutzer, actually, Kreutzer 2. Yeah, it sounds like that when I play. But yeah, you do like different strokes. And I think because the way that it's written, you're oscillating between the A and E string, then you go on the A and D, then you go on G at some point. But then I'm doing different strokes on it. And I do spiccato. I think spiccato really helps. Once you can get that maintained, I find that kind of sharpens my finesse or just like technique, I guess. And then I do, what else do I do? Oh, I go through all the major scales, from G major to A major, I do 4 octaves. Then when I hit B flat and onwards, I do 3 octaves. And then if I'm feeling really desperate, I go up the fingerboard, right, and then I go backwards after that. So that makes me feel, and I do arpeggios, major, minor arpeggios. That is like one thing that makes me feel really in shape. So Kreutzer, Shradiak, and the major scales. I should incorporate minor, but sometimes I get a little bit impatient, it's just time. And I do major and minor arpeggios. And then sometimes I do broken thirds, which I've done with some of you guys.
You do all the arpeggios, like all the different ones?
I do major and minor.
Okay.
Yeah. I would do something from Dunas. I think I've done some Dunas with you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe you. There's like finger tapping stuff, like dexterity things. I think dexterity is something I do. And I actually go through it. There are selected Kreutzer H's that I do. So. Do
you do this every time before you practice or just like once in a while?
Before I practice consistently, I do a scale.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do Shradiak. And I think I did it with, maybe it was before you were here, Kayla, when I did I still to this day, I don't even know where it's from. I got it from a teacher who got it from a teacher. So it's like, da, 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 da. Okay, anyway.
I don't think I've done that.
Yeah, I don't think I've done that either.
There's a packet that I've given some of you guys.
Oh, I have a packet.
Yeah, it goes through all the strings. I like that kind of.
Yeah.
It opens up like the back arm.
Yep.
So.
So a lot of those things are like, all of that is pretty much technique. When would you recommend doing like a majority of those things? Would you recommend starting those in high school, or would you recommend wait until college? Like, what are some technical things that high schoolers should be doing to prep for undergrad?
Oh, you need to do your scales.
Yeah.
And I think something that gets overlooked a lot are chromatic scales too, actually.
Yeah.
You have a lot of them in orchestra music.
Yeah.
Chromatic and broken thirds. So I would say make sure you can play all the scales and arpeggios and chromatic scales and broken thirds. I think those are the technical things I would really lay upon, because most of the rep that you find yourself doing is just some sort of assortment of those things.
Okay.
So I think those are the things I would recommend them to do. And find some intonation exercises too. Find those ringtones. Be very sensitive to the violin, because I think that actually opens up your ears a lot too. But I think something with scales in particular and arpeggios is that it maps out the geography of the violin. You need to know the geography of the violin. And yeah, that's basically what I would suggest high schoolers and to prepare them for college.
Got it. Given all that we've talked about and everything, what are some things you would tell your younger self, given your background and everything that you've been through? What are some things you would tell your younger self about the violin, or anything regarding the professional job application process? Like, if you could go back and tell yourself something, what would it be?
How young would I be? Like 7? Or
Sure.
Okay. I would give myself different advice at different stages. But for example, if I met my 6-year-old to 8-year-old self, I would say, practice your scales. Practice your scales. Do technique. Because I think something that's been kind of wonderful to work with students at GV is that, so we also do technique lessons, is that you guys are all very willing to do it and you guys practice it. For the most part, you guys practice it, you know? And I think that, the reason why I had it for you guys was because I had it available for me when I was an undergrad in college, and I didn't take it seriously. And I wish I did. But I think I've noticed that, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's a huge difference if you really do the dirty work when you're young. When you are, the younger the better.
Yeah.
It's like gymnastics, right?
Yeah.
So I think for college students, especially with some people who haven't been drilled in that hard, it's not too late. That's why in undergrad, I would focus a lot on technique, because when you're grad school, then you can have the facilities to be able to create those musical things that you want to create. Because I know there's that debate about like, which one comes first? Like, should you focus more on technique or musicality?
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah.
But I think my personal humble opinion is that I think technique actually needs to come first. Because how can you create those musical ideas if you don't have the technique to help you with that?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think if I could give advice to my younger self, do your scales, listen to your teachers, do all the etudes, some of the etudes, and do competitions. Because competitions, yes, there are some negative views on competitions today because you're just practicing for the competition and you have to actually play a certain way to be able to win at a competition. But I think it builds discipline and it builds stamina and a lot of good things too.
Yeah.
So, and you will take a lot of hits and it's not a good feeling, but you need to have those type of feelings too.
Yeah.
So that would be the advice I would give my younger self. Do competitions, be more focused. And then for my college years, I actually, and again, this depends on what fields you go into. So because I was performance, my teacher actually warned me and I didn't listen to him. I regret it to this day. When I discovered teaching, I loved it so much, I kept taking in students. But I think when you are grad school, when you are doing grad school, when you're doing undergrad, just focus on playing well. You can teach at any point in your life. Take 1 or 2 students because you need to learn. You have to build experience. But I took like 15 students.
Oh, wow.
You know?
You got a full studio.
Ain't got time for that.
It's also for the money too, though. You know,
That's
then
real. That's real.
It's an investment you're making yourself. So if there's anything I can give advice to you guys is for the time being, undergrad and grad school. And you guys might hear otherwise, like different stuff. But this is just based on what I have experienced. just focus on playing well. That's, you know, and take 1 or 2 students because you need to build up that kind of experience too, you know. But that's advice what I would have given to myself. Just focus on playing well and go harder on competitions and just practice consistently because I didn't practice consistently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I regret, going back to the learning technique in like high school and stuff that you have to build upon. I didn't do that. Like when I was learning violin all through my childhood, it was like the local community music school. And it was like, you know, college students were teaching there or high school students or whatever. So I didn't get like the really professional aspect of it. So I didn't know. Wow. I mean, it affects me now, especially with my hand position. Like I find myself doing Stradiak all the time now to try and fix the things that could have been built upon when I was in high school. So just something to think about. But I kind of want to turn to a fun, more interesting question. If you have favorite composers, what are they and why?
You guys will answer this too, right?
I
I'm
want
curious
to
to know.
answer.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go first?
Avery, do you want to go?
No, you're the host. You go first.
I personally like Mendelssohn and Brahms.
Sorry.
Avery doesn't like that, but
Oh, you don't?
I do. I've always wanted to play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. I love that concerto, and I'm finally
You're
playing
working
it.
on it now. Yeah.
I'm finally working on it this summer. Something I'm really looking forward to. I just like the Romantic era composers just in general, but those two just kind of stick out to me. I just really like all of the works that they've created. All the lyrical melody lines are just something that I've really appreciated.
Do you have a favorite Brahms work or a couple?
Oh, I love the Brahms Violin Concerto.
Yeah.
It's so good. I saw that the first time I saw that live, it was with Hilary Hahn in
Wow.
Chicago.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
I watched her play Brahms too, actually.
Yeah.
2 years ago. When did you watch her play?
Like last year and the year before.
She must have been doing that tour because I heard her with the New York Phil in Hong Kong. So you heard her for Chicago. Yep.
Yeah, because she was an artist in resident at Chicago. So that's where I heard her. Got to meet her. It was kind of cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I would say Mendelssohn and Brahms. It's kind of, I don't know. I like all the romantic composers, but
Yeah. The Mendelssohn Concerto's actually a little bit, to me, a little bit more classical. Like it's when it was, it's a little bit earlier, right?
Oh, yeah.
Than just like, but it has a lot of spark to it. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely has hints of that. So
When did you hear those pieces first?
I think it was a recording I heard in high school. Maybe it was like all the hype back in high school. It was like
All the hype.
It was like if you can
Trending
play
piece.
if you can play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, you're like the thing. So yeah, it just kind of came through high school, and it's like, oh, I actually really like the sound of that piece. Kind of want to play that piece, but back then I didn't have the technical aspects with it, and I didn't have all the stuff that I've learned here now. So really working on that, trying to get that as good as I can get it. But
the last movement, lots of scales and lots of double stops, I guess, for the first movement, or all of them. But
yeah.
I tried learning Sagan in high school.
Oh, wow.
It didn't go well.
Along with Avalyn was saying, no, Mendelssohn's crazy. I know the first time I saw the Grand Rapids Symphony Orchestra, they had a really young soloist play it all from memory, and it was so good. High school me, for this question of my favorite composer, would have said Newbold, because I just, it's a contemporary, it's like high school specific music, but she's really good.
Yeah.
College me is going to say, I like stuff from Seitz a lot. I also like Sibelius, like Finlandia. I really love that piece.
Have you heard his violin concerto?
I have not.
Oh, you
Oh,
should.
it's
It's really good. Good. His symphonies are great too. Yeah.
I guess kind of to just go along with all these questions, what era is your favorite?
Broken classical.
Did you say broken?
Baroque.
Oh, Baroque. Oh, it's broken.
No, Baroque and classical.
The broken era.
Have you guys played Beethoven yet? Oh, yeah. Beethoven 5.
Beethoven 5, yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite composers? Okay. It's really controversial. Everyone gets mad when I say this. I like Mozart and Bach. I like Mozart and I like Bach. And I like Schoenberg and I like Eric Satie. Those are my four favorite ones.
Interesting combo.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. Very diverse.
Why would it be controversial to say Bach and Mozart?
I don't know. Everyone here acts like they are just like the worst. Like they're the worst. Like every time I say like Mozart gives me a lot of crap for it. I don't know the issue. I like Mozart and Bach, and I like playing Bach. No one likes playing him. I like playing him. I think it's nice.
What about playing Bach do you like?
I don't know. It just feels so elegant and so structured. That's what it feels. It feels very. That's how I describe classical music too. It feels very like structured. Yeah.
You did ask me in the lesson. I remember. You said you asked me why you might like classical era music.
Yeah.
And I wondered if it was because with Mozart you have as you guys have studied in theory, it's very structured. It's very grammatically structured too, right? You have like A and then B, and then you have sentences and things like that. So it's a little bit more, and it's also written in galant style. So it's something that's very accessible.
Yeah, I learned about that in Lit. Yeah.
Very nice.
I think I like. I feel like I have to work a lot harder to play it too. Like the style is hard for me to play, and it feels more satisfying when I can actually do it right. So I feel like I like that about Mozart a lot.
You like the challenge.
Yeah.
For me, I love all of the genres. I do tend to actually gravitate towards more Baroque and romantic and some 20th century music, 21st century music. But my favorite top three Bach has always been one of the top three.
Yep. Yeah.
I love his contrapuntal lines.
I say that all the time.
Yeah. Musical term. I love his piano inventions. I feel like his works are very timeless. So it's something that is very complex, but also something that can also be a little bit simple too. And it's very difficult to play. I think the hardest part for me, for Bach, was knowing what kind of style I wanted to play. Because you guys have heard so many different styles that have been played with Bach, right? You can play more romantically, more Baroque performance like. So I think mine has always been Bach. I've always loved Mendelssohn. I loved his songs. I loved his chamber works. I loved Schubert too. I love his songs, and I love his string quartets, things like that. So, but I think Bach has always been there for me.
Yep.
Bach does that
always
too.
Got to go back. All right. As we're kind of wrapping up here, I have two more questions for you. And the first one we kind of hit on previously, but what's one piece of advice you want students to take away from this episode or in general? And then the second one is, are there any books or resources that you would recommend to students?
So the advice I would have it's very practical, I think, is for a lot of undergrads where you guys are at now and high schools before, it might sound a little bit technical, but it is technical, but just focus on technique. I think I say that because when you are young, your muscles are a little bit more, agile, and it's a little bit more formative. The older you get, the harder it actually sticks with you. So I'm not even that old. I'm like early 30s. But I think I've noticed that when I'm trying new technique or trying to learn pieces, and I've talked about this with my professors too. And I said, is it just me or am I learning things slower? And they said, no, it actually slows down, but you really feel it after you hit 30. So but I think when you're young, especially where you guys are at now, just do the dirty work, focus a lot on the technical things because it will actually carry you on for life. And if you're listening to this as a high schooler, that's even better for you, I think, And if you're listening to this as an elementary school student, then definitely, just do what your teacher tells you if they tell you to do scales. So, and I also said, when you get older, you won't have time to do all of this kind of stuff. David Kim, the person I mentioned earlier, I remember he said one of his other advice was take 1 month per year and just go through rehab or just like go through boot camp. Maybe that's a better word. Go through a boot camp where you're just solely focusing on just do the etudes and things like that. Etudes and scales and lots of intonation work too. And I said, do it when you're young because when you're older, it gets harder. And I said, And some of you guys are really good at it. I know Aveline especially because I see her at some of them. It's like go to concerts, and you talked about it too. Especially, I would even say when you're younger, go to solo concerts, recitals, because that's when you get to hear the soloist's voice and they're playing. When you're orchestra, yes, go to orchestra concerts, but you hear them as a collective unit. But I think especially when you're trying to figure out what your own voice is, what your own sound is, you have to listen to it critically too. Know what you like about it, because I know, especially kids like the generation Gen Z, you guys listen to a lot of music, but I have noticed that sometimes it's more passive listening because you have Spotify and it's the influx of so much music. So it's another thing to just be really critical. So listen to the sound and know what you like about it. So that is the advice I would have. And you said, and I said, be easy to work with. Be very easy to work with. And I think and I speak from experience, and I've noticed this a bit later. Actually, I didn't realize this until maybe this past year or last year. I've noticed that a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten is because people just liked working with me. I think it's not, yes, I have to make sure I play at a certain level, but you have to be easy to work with and fun to work with. And in terms of books, or I would suggest, Aveline has read this, The Inner Game of Tennis. That one actually, it's written by a tennis coach actually, but then he talks about you're able to apply a lot of it to performing on the violin. So it's like how you can deal with nerves and get it under control. So I think there's a lot of psychology behind it. And I think that definitely helps. Actually, one quick thing is I remember at NEC, there's a trombone professor and his wife is a psychologist. And before his students would go out to take these big auditions, he would have them go through his wife. And then she would talk to them. And then they would go through this, I don't know what kind of therapy thing, or just like talk about like the psychological aspect of it. And then they would go out. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He kind of realized that. So Inner Game of Tennis has really changed a lot of the things that I have kind of, approached performance. So those are that's the one book I would suggest. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap up our guest episode for today. We made it, guys. Good job.
Woo, nice job, guys.
I just want to give a big thank you to both my co-hosts for being part of this episode, Avery and Kayla.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me with this interview. It's been awesome. And of course, thank you to the one and only Dr. Jap for sharing your insights into the music world and for joining us on this podcast. It was an absolute pleasure having you. If you or someone you know would like to be featured on 2D Talks, please feel free to DM us on Instagram at 2D Talks Podcast or email us at 2dtalkspodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all things music, from guest highlights and upcoming episodes to behind-the-scenes content and performance clips. We're passionate about teaching as many musicians as we can, and you can help us do that. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a fellow musician, colleague, or friend, whether it's someone in your ensemble, your studio, or someone who would appreciate these conversations. Every share helps grow our community. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of 2D Talks. We've appreciated having you here. Keep the music playing, keep the conversation going, and we will see you in the next one.